Arabs are growing increasingly anxious as the war with Iran drags on, draining resources and effectively burning holes in Gulf leaders' wallets as regional costs and risks keep rising. The UAE has moved to seize an estimated $500 billion in Iranian assets, and is now reportedly pushing for even more compensation as the conflict's economic fallout deepens. One US economist has even warned that the UAE itself could be blown up by a wider Middle East war, given how exposed it is at the heart of the Gulf.
Basically, Dubai and Abu Dhabi could be blown up if the UAE gets into the war. These are resort areas. These are tourist destinations. These are not fortified missile defense areas. These are places where rich people are going to party and put their money. And to enter a war zone is to defeat the entire purpose of a place like Dubai. The Emirates got itself into an absurd mess with its eyes open.
In the end, Washington's Arab partners may emerge as some of the biggest losers from President Trump's disastrous war on Iran, paying the highest regional price for decisions made in the White House. The UAE has demanded reparations from Iran as the war stretches into its fifth week, casting compensation as central to any political endgame between the two sides. Officials in Abu Dhabi have framed these reparations as a political solution for aggression against Gulf states, arguing that Iran must pay for attacks and damage linked to the conflict. At the same time, the UAE has reportedly moved to seize around $530 billion in Iranian assets, including real estate, investments, and bank accounts, according to Iranian and regional media reports. The Emirati authorities have also revoked residency permits for Iranian nationals, including long-term golden visas that were tied to property ownership and high-value investment in the country. Golden visas, once marketed as renewable long-term residence linked to significant economic stakes in the Emirates, have now become a flashpoint as many Iranians see their status abruptly cancelled. Anwar Gargash, a senior diplomatic advisor to the UAE president, has said that any future peace deal must include Iranian compensation and guarantees against further aggression toward Gulf states. The diplomatic advisor to the UAE president said, quote, "Any political solution addressing Iranian attacks on Gulf states should include Iranian reparations for targeting vital facilities as well as civilians. The solutions should include clear guarantees to prevent a repetition of the attacks. Iran deceived its neighbors about its intentions before the war and revealed premeditated aggression despite their sincere efforts to avoid it," unquote. Tensions between Gulf nations and Iran remain extremely high, as Tehran continues to launch retaliatory strikes that keep the region on edge and leaders on constant alert. Earlier, the UAE said it had intercepted a large number of incoming threats, according to March 29 reports that underscored the scale of the confrontation. These threats allegedly included 16 ballistic missiles and 42 drones launched from Iran, highlighting how quickly the conflict has expanded into the Gulf's airspace. Meanwhile, prominent American economist Jeffrey Sachs has warned that the UAE itself could be blown up in a wider Middle East war, given how exposed it is to escalation.
Basically, Dubai and Abu Dhabi could be blown up if the UAE gets into the war. These are resort areas. These are tourist destinations. These are not fortified missile defense areas. These are places where rich people are going to party and put their money. And to enter a war zone is to defeat the entire purpose of a place like Dubai. The Emirates got itself into an absurd mess with its eyes open.
Iran insists it did not start the war, arguing that its forces are only striking sites from which attacks against its territory and assets are being launched. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts to reduce tensions are underway across Iran's neighborhood, with regional capitals scrambling to contain the fallout from the conflict. Foreign ministers from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey have gathered in Pakistan for a two-day summit focused on de-escalation and possible pathways to a ceasefire. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, has spoken with his Pakistani counterpart, Ishaq Dar, about the ongoing war, with both sides stressing dialogue and diplomacy as the only viable route to peace. Iran issued a sinister new threat just hours after its missile strike on a chemical factory in southern Israel, making clear that the attack was only a first warning shot. A senior Iranian commander said that retaliatory operations against the United States and Israel are already underway and are now intensifying with every new round of aggression. The commander of the IRGC's aerospace force made these remarks in an official statement released on March 29, outlining Tehran's evolving response strategy. Brigadier General Majid Musavi said Iran's reply to what he called the enemy's attacks is being delivered through precise strikes on carefully chosen economic and military targets. Musavi's statements were carried by Iranian outlets such as Press TV, which detailed the scope of Iran's ongoing retaliation across the region. Musavi's warning came at the same time as reports that both the United States and Israel are struggling with shortages of interceptor missiles under sustained attack. Israel is reportedly rationing its most advanced interceptor systems to prevent its air defense stockpiles from collapsing during what could become a long war. Majid Musavi said, and I quote, "Up to this moment, the chemical industries of the occupied territories, a refinery, 2 steel complexes, 2 aluminum supercomplexes were attacked, and these painful attacks will continue unless we see the pain in your eyes." An Israeli chemical factory in the Neot Hovav industrial zone was struck by an Iranian missile on March 29, in one of the clearest examples of Iran's shift to industrial targets. A huge fire broke out across the complex, which houses several chemical manufacturing facilities and other industrial plants clustered in the Negev. At least 34 firefighting crews were deployed to contain the blaze, and officials later said that no hazardous material leaks were detected at the scene. The damaged plant belongs to Adama, a chemicals company that is part of the Chinese-owned Syngenta Group, and it sits around 12 kilometers from the city of Beersheba. In Beersheba itself, at least 11 people were injured after an Iranian missile struck an open area near the city during the same wave of attacks. Local reports said those people were hurt by flying objects and debris thrown into the air by the missile shockwave rather than by a direct hit. Emergency service Megan David Adam also treated around 20 others suffering from acute anxiety, and they were all taken to Soroka Hospital for further care. In Kuwait, Iranian forces struck a power and water distillation facility linked to US interests, killing 1 worker in a related attack on Gulf-based infrastructure. Iranian officials say this wave of retaliation followed earlier IDF strikes on the Arak heavy water reactor and on a uranium-related site in the province of Yazd. The global atomic watchdog has confirmed that Iran's Khandab water plant sustained severe damage during those Israeli attacks. The agency added that Khandab contained no declared nuclear material at the time of the strike and that the facility is now no longer operational. At the same time, Iranian state media reported a separate American-Israel attack on a unit of the Tabriz petrochemical company in northwest Iran. Officials there said no toxic or polluting substances were released after the strike, and rescue teams quickly brought the situation under control. Earlier in the conflict, Israel had publicly boasted that it hit facilities linked to Iran's nuclear program and heavy industry, claiming major damage to production capacity.